with so many people voting by mail, I thought it would be fun to take a minute and show you how to create your own vintage style I voted sticker. I'm Kara Plichenich, and I help creatives up their game with inspiration and know-how. Be sure to check the description below for any links or free downloads mentioned in this video, and hit me up at karaplichenich.com to check out my full library of in-depth courses. First thing we're going to do is create the document. So we'll come up here to File, New, and you can put in whatever dimensions you want here. You could make a Facebook profile picture or a cover page or whatever. I'm just going to do 5 by 5 inches with 300 pixels per inch and leave it as a white background and click Create. Next, I'm going to be using my Swatches panel. You can find it under Window, Swatches. I've got mine here and I've already chosen some colors. So if you want to use your own or you can follow along with me, that is fine. So for my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in this background with this almond color. And that is as simple as clicking and dragging it and dropping it over in the layers panel. Next, we'll add our type. So I'll come down to the type tool and I'm going to be using a font called Glamour Absolute, and there's a link to that below. There is also another font that ends up with a similar effect called Merengue Script, and this one is available for free to Creative Cloud subscribers. So if you are a Creative Cloud subscriber, you can just go to your font menu and click right here, More from Adobe Fonts. You click the little cloud icon, and that will take you to Adobe's website where you can click to activate Merengue Script, and then you will find it in your font list right here. So I'm going to be using this one, and I am going to change the color to this lighter kind of, well, it's not very light, but it's lighter than the other swatch that I'll use, kind of this dark steel blue right here. And I'm going to click to insert my cursor, and I'm going to type I voted. And I'll press Command or Control Enter to set that text. Using my Move tool to reposition it, and I'll press Command or Control T to bring up Free Transform. And then I'm gonna scale it proportionally outwards from the center by holding Option or Alt. When I have a size that I think will work, I will press Return on my keyboard. Now that I've got this type here, I'm ready to style it and take advantage of the typeface that I chose. So I'll press T to switch back to my type tool, and I'm gonna click to highlight the V here, and this particular font, Glamour Absolute, has stylistic alternates. So I can fancify this by just highlighting the letter and then clicking to select a fancy version of that letter. So I'm gonna do that really quickly, and then we'll set that type. Now, the idea is that I wanted to have the words I voted repeated multiple times, each one a different color. So this is going to be the one that appears on the bottom. So I'm going to switch to my Move tool now by pressing V, and I'm going to hold down Alt or Option and Shift to keep it in alignment. I'm going to drag upwards, and we see that it makes a copy. And now to change the color of that text, I'm going to come over here to my layers panel, and I can just click the swatch, and because it's a type layer, it will just change to that color. So I still have my Move tool, so I'll hold Option and Shift, Option or Alt on a PC, and I'll drag another one, and I'm not going to worry about trying to get the spacing right. The smart guides may allow me to get it right, but I'm really not going to actually pay attention to that. I just want to make sure that it's in alignment, and we'll deal with spacing in a minute. So now I'm going to change that to this color, and I'll hold Alt or Option and Shift drag again, this color, again, this color, and finally this color. Okay, so now we can see that we have the spacing that's definitely not equal. So what I want to do is think about where I want the top layer I voted and where I want the bottom. And I actually think that that distance between the top and the bottom is pretty good. So what I'm going to do in my layers panel is I've got the top layer selected. I'm going to hold shift and click the bottom one. So with all those layers selected and my move tool active, I can come up here in the control panel. And if I click the little menu right here, I can come down to distribute spacing and I can click right here. And that will equalize the spacing between the topmost layer and the bottommost layer. So if I wanted them more spread out, I just would need to create more distance between the top layer and the bottom layer, and then Photoshop would take care of the spacing of everything in between. But I actually think that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is actually lower the opacity of these layers because they are a little too competitive with the top layer, which I definitely want to be the one that stands out. So I'm gonna click the second layer here and shift click to the bottom. So those are all selected, and I'll come in the layers panel and just drop that opacity down to 65, 70-ish%. And we can see that that takes the opacity down and directs more of the attention back up here to the top layer, which is where I want it. One more thing that can be nice is I want to add a bit of a fade to the letters, so they also become more faded as they reach the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to group all of the layers except the top one. So I've already got them selected. I can put them in a folder in a group by pressing Command or Control G. And now I can add a mask to this whole folder. So I'll come down to the bottom of the layers panel and click Add a Mask. And I'm going to apply a simple gradient to that mask. So I'll come over to my toolbar and grab the gradient tool. Next, I want to restore black as my foreground color. So depending on the colors you have, you may need to press D to get black and white, but since I already have black and white, they're just reversed. I actually need to just press X to exchange those. So black is on top, and that will allow me to come up to my gradient presets here. And if I click the drop down, the second preset will be my current foreground color, in this case black, to transparent. And that is what I want here. So I'm going to click away to select that. Before I start drawing, I want to make sure I've got my option here set to linear and that I do not have reverse enabled. Then I can come down here just below the bottommost layer and I can click and drag up. And there we see that we have added a gradient to the layer mask, and that will essentially fade those away. And if I want to reposition everything, I can select the group and shift click for the top I voted layer, switch to my move tool and reposition as needed. So I hope you find that fun, and I hope you get out and vote. And now you can have your very own sticker to celebrate. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you again at the next tutorial.